and running. Hold on. Okay, here we go.
In a world where things almost make sense and most everything is interesting and mildly unique, it's a place that feels somewhat familiar and has the suspicious comfort of a loving semi-omnipresence. You are on the outskirts of Loutopia. Sit back and relax, or tense up and march around. Please welcome your host of Loutopia, Lou Angel Wolf.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Loutopia podcast. I'm Lou Angel Wolf, and boy, is it nice to be here. Thank you so much for joining us. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, broadcasting out of the Double Special Studios in sparkling Clearwater, Florida. It's one more episode of the Loutopia podcast. It's about health, humor, and well-being. Please like us. Please subscribe to the channel. Give us some feedback, questions. I don't know. And you can also listen to the show. It's on YouTube, and it's also simulcast on IRN Broadcast. That's irnbroadcast.com, so you can catch it over there. And of course, the show is archived every week on loutopia.com. That's Loutopia, loutopia.com. And welcome, everybody. Great show. The show we broadcast out of the Central Florida area and right around the Clearwater, which we love a lot. And, man, it's good to be here. Of course, over to my right, my co-host, Michael Merberg.
Good to be back. June came early this year.
Yeah, it sure did. Yeah, we had a break last week. How's Jake feeling, Chris?
Oh, he's doing better. He had some sort of sinusy. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's got allergies or what. But he was out 2 days.
And that new voice you just heard is Chris Gorgeous, who is the producer, and this is his studio, the Double Special Studio.
Same old voice, though.
Same old voice.
Yep.
Same one you've been listening to for years.
Yeah.
That's a charming hooligan voice. That's a
so many incarnations.
Well, welcome aboard, everybody. Every week we have some kind of thread that runs through the show, and all of it, I'm going to say everybody that kind of listens to the show. Oh, on the second half of the show, by the way, let me get the whole crew in here. Beth Snyder joins us from Sarasota. She is a hypnotherapist. She is also the mercantiler of the Om Shop, a metaphysical shop down there in southern Sarasota. So we'll be hearing from Beth later on the second half of the show. We try to have a thread run through each show, and this particular show is about perceived realities and actual realities. It can be, it can get really spacey and deep. But the other day I was thinking, most of us that are, I know all of us that are on the show, and a lot of the people that listen to the show are kind of deep thinkers. They have an existential, lineage to their thought, or actually circular motion to their thought.
Yeah. We've elevated ourselves from thinking about the next meal to higher planes, like
yes,
like what's on TV tonight.
Yes, we're past that even. We're thinking, what is moon dust made of? But anyway, our perceived reality. And this is what I was thinking about the other day. This is what spurred the idea. Like, from what we've learned on the internet, with various teachers, what we've read in various books, like there's certain things. Like, if you believe the government's rendition of the 9/11 report, you're probably not listening to our show, and you're probably not anybody I could have a very stimulating conversation with. Don't get me wrong. You might be a nice person. Don't get me wrong like that. But what I'm saying is where my realities begin and end are way past that. How this was not an inside job, how this wasn't a huge business deal, how this wasn't a paradigm shift in power and influence. I don't think it could really get any more textbook. It was a coup that was not expertly pulled off, but it got pulled off.
Well, it took a long time to do it. I beg to differ. I think the experts were in for quite a while, and the people that were doing it knew what they were doing. You know, accepting the government position on 9/11 is like watching My Three Sons and believing it's real. Nice show, but it's not real.
Yeah. And I'm actually friends with Barry Livingston on Facebook.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is just a special thing for me.
Why was I thinking that?
I told I told a joke.
Wait, you're friends on Facebook?
Yeah, with Barry Livingston.
That's not real.
Okay, that's probably true. But anyway,
No, it's real that you're friends with them, but not really friends.
right? Yeah, that's
On Facebook,
the
but
electronic friends.
I love when people say, I'm friends with this son. I'm like, oh, you guys talk a lot? Well, you know, we like each other's posts and stuff
Yeah.
on Twitter.
Yeah, same thing with Gino Michelini. Like Gino Michelini, who's one of my favorite DJs of all time. I'm his friend, and we actually text back and forth, and you know.
Yeah, well, you can't have geographical proximity to everybody, so Facebook facilitates friendships, meaningful friendships that are, you know, both intellectual and
I was just kidding
Psychological.
along the theme of tonight's show.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, it was a joke.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
damn.
I'm friends with you on Facebook.
Yeah, we're friends. Okay. And
I follow your skateboarding videos. I think they're cool. There's something that I could never do.
Artistry.
yeah, it's funny. Michael is bolder on Facebook than I am. And if I find something that's really interesting, but I don't want to put it up, I'll send it to Michael in a private message, and then he'll put it up.
Here's what's happened to me, though. On Facebook, I've been relegated in this post-truth world to putting up, you know, kitten videos and videos of Bat Dad and shit like that.
Yeah.
It's the only way I can get traffic, because if I really was honest on Facebook, like I'd like to be, yeah, there would be nobody. My followers.
Well, you know,
Right, you guys both have audiences to play to. I could give
Right.
a flying.
Oh, you have a little bit of an audience. I've seen people chime in that chime in regularly on your post, Mike.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, you do have an audience, and the beautiful thing about you is you know how to argue your case better than any of us.
Yeah, I try to use something called facts.
Yeah, those damn facts. But anyway, as I circle back around to make my point, what I'm saying is that reality. Okay, I mean, you got to know that things are going on right now. You got to know that there is a shadow government behind our government that manipulates and moves almost every part of our life, and the fact that they're doing a soft intro on artificial intelligence, when you really reel back and realize that was the thing that's crushed the planet every time it's been crushed, was the power of the AI. And the fact that it's not even creeping up on us. It's sauntering through the front door like Liberace with a new suit. And these are the realities, and these are things, you know, our economy is based on, I don't know, a rice paper bridge from here to somewhere. And there's, you know, you can look at all the other stuff that's in the news, the Pizzagate,
And the missing, was it $21 trillion that nobody can account for.
yes, the 20.
It's just you know what $21 million or $21 trillion is. If you make $40,000 a year, it would take you earning 25 million years to get to $21 trillion.
How many in the years?
It would take you 25 million years earning $40,000 a year. Okay.
Oh my God. That's a lot of millions.
Right.
That's a lot
I'm
of
sorry.
billions.
I'm sorry. That's only to get to the trillion mark. I'm sorry.
That's the
I'm
first
sorry.
trillion.
That's
Yeah.
the first trillion. So that would essentially take you 125 million years to get to $21 trillion. Wow. So at $40,000 a year, you'd be working from the time the first ape picked up a bone and knocked it over the head of some other ape until the present time.
and still have a red balance.
Yeah, and it's missing. I mean, if you put $100 bills, dollar to dollar bills, and you extended them out to the universe, you could go to Alpha Centauri and back, and still have pocket change.
Hey, there's no tolls on the way back. But yeah, man. Yeah. So if you know these things, okay, you know all this stuff is going on, but you wake up in the morning and you feel okay, and you go sit down and have a bowl of Cheerios with a banana, and your pretty girlfriend walks out of the bedroom. You give her a kiss good morning. You take a nice hot shower, and you go to work, and you earn your money, and you come home, and you know what? She's got shrimp scampi made that night. It's really hard. This blending of realities leaves me in an odd place sometimes. It's like I don't know what to believe. A, about myself. B, about the current situation that's out there in cyber world, and then the actual boots on the ground existence that we live.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, and I think also what spurred this on is I've just seen so many people really lose their minds on Facebook arguing points. And the most hilarious ones are the ones that will argue tooth and nail till the flash of blood over some sort of political thing where they have no idea. They've never met these people. They've never seen them. They've never been in the same room with them. They don't know that much about them, but they've taken an amalgamation of a couple of different news sources. They've mixed it all together, and they've blended in an opinion. Okay, you can do this for the right. You can do this for the left. They all do it the same way. And yet they argue fervently like they were there when it happened, and I'm trying to tell you what's going on. And that, to me, is a complete waste of energy.
Yeah, it's kind of like you got a better chance of knowing Bugs Bunny's personality than you do of having know any major political figure of our time.
What a maroon.
Well, can I just chime in and say that?
Yeah, you go ahead.
When people do that,
Right.
okay, they've been given very specific information about that person, usually from that person, in the form of stump speeches and interviews and talking, going on Meet the Press and all those things. So they have an idea of what the person has allowed them to think about them. So they're going off of that.
Okay.
And really, at the end of the day, I don't know much about you, Lou,
Yeah.
except what you tell me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, that goes with anybody. When you said that statement about, waste of energy, I feel like when people argue their spirituality, I feel the same way. When they say, well, Jesus did this, and they did, and he meant this. And I'm like, how do you know what the hell he meant? You don't know anything about that person. You weren't there. You're taking the word of people that are, this 1,000, 2,000-year-old word from somebody. I feel like it's all... So, the Scientologists have an interesting saying in that the truth is what's true to you. That's what the truth is.
Sure.
I found that very fascinating when I heard that in their little books.
Well,
and everything else is opinion. It's all conjecture. I mean, really.
And exactly right. And in fact, Michael texted me today, and he texted, if there are some things that are real, what are they and why? And what is the nature of reality, individual or objective? Does reality require consensus? Okay.
I think if you want people to agree with you, it does.
Let's all build that wall we can run into.
Well, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can say all day, look, I mean, look, he's talked about his CE5 experiences, okay?
Yep.
For me, it's not real for me. I haven't experienced that. I can only take his word for it and try to, whether I believe it or not is my business. But my point is that, yes, you need a consensus if you want it to be real for a populace.
Well, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah.
Because you got people now.
Well, then consensus has to be based on collective subjective experiences.
I agree with that, yeah.
To be in any way, shape, or form true.
Sure. I agree with that.
Well, all right.
A lot of people seeing the same, doing the same, experiencing the same thing, and then they can all go, yeah, okay, I agree. We've all boiled water. What temperature did it boil at? I measured it, and it boiled at this temperature.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a truth because you've got a consensus.
I get it.
Yeah.
And a little bill and a thermometer. But
Yeah.
Wow. Well, holy Christ. Science on this show.
Well, look, I'm just saying.
The ultimate arbiter of truth.
I
is
go
science.
more with, and listen, you guys are older, you have a little bit more experience on the planet. I take that into account when I'm talking to somebody. But also, I happen to come from a place where I go with what makes the most logical sense to me.
right.
Those are the things I lean toward. I'm not saying I'm locked in there.
Right.
But like when you said about 9/11, I don't agree with you. And that's fine. I think we can still have an intelligent discussion.
Sure.
And I'm very nice, but I go with what's logical to me and what makes the most sense. So I think that's where truth has to be. What is most logical? What is most likely?
Do you really think
Reality.
that? Well, I mean, do you really think that 17 Islamic guys got together with box cutters and
Yes.
ran two giant airplanes?
Yep,
into
I do.
The
I do.
World Trade-
Whether or not they had
the-
funding, from another government is beside the point. But I don't think it's that's a big of a stretch to think that Osama bin Laden and his organization could actually pull that off. Was I surprised? Yeah, I was. But at the same time, they were in the country. Maybe that has something to do with the government allowing them to proceed. But it's not. To me, it's here's my thing: would the United States government publicly assassinate 4,000 of its citizens to start a war in Iraq that they could already start?
Sure, they would. Sure
Why?
they would.
We say sure, but why?
Consensus to
Why
develop-
would they do that? Why
And-
wouldn't they
and
just
it's
perpetrate an attack on one of their bases and go, "Oh, this is a reason"?
No, because you have to do it to a civilian population and create an egregious crime. I mean, Operation Northwoods was that way. It was all planned out.
I'm not familiar with that. What is
Okay,
Northwood?
that's what Operation Northwoods was when the CIA presented to John Kennedy, hey, we can go to war with Cuba. All we need to do is shoot down one of our own passenger planes. That's Operation Northwoods. That's a historical fact.
Okay.
That's reality, okay? The Gulf of Tonkin resolution, okay? Historical fact. That's how we got into Vietnam. All right, LBJ's president, and he wants to declare war on Vietnam. So they manufacture an imaginary hit on one of our boats, and they on a ship in Saigon Harbor, and it was all false flag, and it was a war that was created, and we went to war based on that false flag. Let's take, for example, Pearl Harbor. Okay, George Marshall and FDR knew that the Japanese were in the area, and they purposely brought all the ships into Pearl Harbor for the purpose of establishing a place where they could all be slaughtered and bring the United States into war. That's a historical fact now. You couldn't know about that 40 years ago or 50 years ago.
So that's a proven fact.
That's a proven fact right now.
So what you're saying is
let
that
me give you one more.
Sure.
You know, the sinking of the battleship Maine in Havana Harbor, 1905. Once again, you know, they blamed it on the Cubans, but it's the act of nobody knows how it started, but because it was blown up in Havana Harbor, that was the trigger that brought us into war against Cuba, and that's how we got Teddy Roosevelt got to overrun Cuba. This has been going on for a very, very long time, and those who have studied the historical facts and know about it realize that this government, this shadow government that's running this country, that's orchestrating everything that's going on behind the scenes, these people with the gigantic amounts of money. I just talked $21 trillion is missing. Okay, and nobody can account for it. All right, that's all the military spending in the last 20 years. Yeah. Right, that's big money. That buys a lot of silence, and it makes far more sense to me to know that this entire thing could have been very well orchestrated and blamed on somebody else than what the government is telling us what we have to believe.
I just feel like it's a really risky thing to do, the 9/11 thing to do in the face of the public, and it would if these things are found out, then why would people put up with it? Or, you know what I'm saying? Why? If somebody came to me with that plan and said, we're going to do this, that, I'd be like, dude, if people find out about this, we're screwed.
Well, people don't want to believe our government is evil.
Well, I don't not believe they're not evil. I mean, they're evil. I believe they're evil, but that's above and beyond what I think is like.
But here's the
it would be an awful thing.
Here's the thing, Chris.
Yep. Reality versus non.
Well, here's the reality of it.
Your reality or the reality?
The reality.
Okay.
Let's call them facts.
Yeah. If any airplane would have struck those towers, okay, for one, neither airplane collision was big enough or mighty enough to take those towers down ever. Those towers were imploded, demolition style.
Okay, I've heard all the conspiracy theories about it.
It's not a conspiracy.
Well, but I also watched a 2-hour documentary from people that were not government people. They were engineers, and they explained exactly how it could have happened and why it happened, the construction of the tower, the fact that the elevator shafts were in the center, and that caused heat coming out. I've heard both sides.
That's the NIST story.
Well, you're saying the NIST, but for a lot of people, that makes perfect sense. And why wouldn't it make perfect sense?
Well, because
it makes more sense that that they imploded the buildings, that they blew them up.
They're the only they're the only 3 towers that have ever been brought down by a fire or an airplane.
I'm not
in history.
I know. I've heard those facts, and I understand what you're saying.
How about World Trade Center 7? No airplane hit it. There was a small fire in the corner.
Are they connected by parking garages underneath? Is there a chance that heat could have?
They're not.
I'm being the reasonable doubt guy. When you guys are locked in on your whole, they set charges and blew that shit up and killed 3,000 people to start a war that they could have done another way. They could have done another way. Let's be honest.
But they couldn't have.
I don't believe that. I don't think they could have brought America into the 7
kidding me?
wars that started afterward.
America loves war. Are you kidding me?
Not at that
This
time.
country has a hard-on for war.
Yeah, but that was a great reason.
From the 50s, bro. I mean, honestly. Look, I'm just saying, on this show, I play the devil's advocate, and not because I honestly believe, for me, it makes more logical sense this than that. And I understand where you're coming from, and I don't discredit what you're saying. I'm just saying it's a hard sell for me.
Well,
it's a hard sale for me.
And I'll be really honest, I wish I could believe that way.
Yeah,
I wish I could.
Absolutely, I did it first, and then all of a sudden the facts start coming out. And being a prosecutor the way I am, this is an easy case to prove. I mean, you give me a jury with an
and then
open
why
mind.
hasn't it been proven then? Why has nobody taken the government to court over the fact that those buildings were blown up and brought evidence to trial saying, look, here's the evidence that these buildings were demolished. It was demolition.
Well, there have been civil suits.
Right.
Yeah, many.
You know, and how are you going to take? You're going to take the government to task? The government has more money than friggin' God.
I hear you.
And who's going to take the government to task for what damages? Who's going to pay? You know, the amount of time and effort and take. You can't just take it in.
The families of the 3,000 people that died there that day.
And that's how they've won their civil cases. But when you take a criminal case to trial, or when you take the government to task, you need. You know, that's supposed to be the government's job, is to take itself to task, not private people coming in and doing this. It's a big cover from day one. It was, and also the NIST study and the official government.
What is the NIST for people that don't know what that is?
Was it National?
National Institute for
Science and Technology,
something like that.
So they did. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to get on. We don't want to do a 9/11 show.
And not to mention, you actually believe the lone gunman with the Kennedy assassination?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
No, well, I wasn't there either. But things are starting to look pretty grim for George H.W. Walker Bush.
I think it's not impossible for somebody to get off a shot like that, even 2 maybe. Not impossible. But
yeah, but we're talking about reasonable, not impossible. I mean,
it's reasonable. It's reasonable for a guy to do that. Lone? I don't know. I don't know what his motivation was. Did he ever say what his motivation was?
It's also no, because guess what? The CIA got to him first. Yeah,
Ruby did. Yeah.
Yeah, not Ruby. Ruby was an operational for the CIA.
Who am I thinking of? The guy that shot.
Yeah, Jack Ruby shot Oswald.
Right. Okay.
Ruby shot
And
Lee Harvey
it just so happens that Oswald's handler for the CIA was George H.W. Walker Bush's roommate at prep school. I mean, hey, tie that one in, and they were both in the CIA together. Oh, wow! Now things are starting to make sense.
Sure. Exactly. Well, same. And if you go from JFK to RFK, and then you start studying who Sirhan was, and his participation in it, I mean, the whole thing it just continues to wreak.
Look, again, for me, it's like, is what you're saying, but yeah, it's possible. Yep, assassination. But 3,000 people in broad daylight in the middle of the biggest city in the country, I find that's a hell of a thing, bro.
Well, hey,
that's a hell of a thing to pull off.
So is dropping a nuclear bomb on Hiroshima.
Well, but they did that. They announced they were going to do that shit. You know what I'm
So
saying?
what were you going to do?
What?
What are you going to do with a couple hours notice?
Oh, nothing. It doesn't matter.
Hey, guess what?
It's not
You're
like
soon
it's
to
not.
die.
Yeah, but it's not like they did it and blamed it on Panama. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, well, we didn't do that. Taiwan did that. Sorry about that. Taiwan did that. We didn't do that.
Well,
don't get your feathers in a ruffle.
No. I'm not. And hence, this is what the show is about.
Yeah.
Is about perceived reality and actual reality, and so what? And obviously, we all have spirited feelings about 9/11 and all the the American history that's been peddled to us. But what I'm saying is, knowing all this, all that stuff playing in the background of your head, all those albums that you got stuck, up in the closet of your brain, all that stuff plays from time to time. And, but when you get up in the morning and you realize it's kind of a nice sunshiny day and everything is okay, all that stuff just kind of, it kind of goes away,
You can make it go away.
And I do. I meditate it away constantly. But what I'm saying is somewhere in the middle is your place. Somewhere in the middle is that blend. I think you have to carry it all,
Yeah, the Tao tells us to hold on to your center.
Yeah, hold on to your center. And because what happens is there's times that I get too deeply involved with the alternative history of our country, and it's absolutely.
Well, I wouldn't call it. Well, it's an alternative, but it's the real history of the country that's not taught by the people that are creating the myth that they're trying to sell us.
Right, and I don't call it conspiracy theory either, because that's a
CIA pejorative term used to describe people that were investigating the Kennedy assassination.
There you go. And it's not that but
It's great.
I like alternative history because alternative it opens the door for, well, what really is this about?
Here's the thing. I watched a video the other day, a flat Earth thing.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself going, that's a really good point.
Yeah,
that's a really good point.
So yeah, I've seen the same one.
There's thousands of them.
I know, but you know what? The reality of it is you can't completely rule it out.
Right, because you've not been up there. You don't know. We're taking the words of the guys.
And
that have been up
now, and the other side of it is too, is you start doubting NASA, which has been, ever since we were little kids, I was sewing NASA patches on my clothes. I thought being an astronaut was one of the coolest things ever.
Well, it still is. It
is pretty badass.
But using the flat Earth as any kind of indicator of reality is just really kind of ludicrous. Having been in an airplane and seeing circumferences, and actually I had a chance to see Jupiter and the moons last month. And that's round, and Mars was round, and Venus is round, and gosh, they rotate. I'll put my money on round. A lot of money.
Yeah,
like
everything
I got.
In
I'm
no
going
way,
on round.
Mike. In no way am I trying to belittle your opinion about different things. But what I'm saying is, your reality can change real quickly.
Sure.
If you let your brain change it. I think that's what you were trying to get at. You can walk outside and go, it's a sunny day, and all the other stuff washes away, and guess what? There ain't nothing. It's a good day. Everything's good.
And I think what happens is, and I've said this 1,000 times in my life, don't let your world get small. Don't when you stop reflecting on the beauty of the sunshine, the calmness of the breezes blowing by you, watching flowers grow in your front yard. When you lose track of all that, what's that Cheshire Cat grin?
Don't let your world get flat.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about perceived realities and actual realities, or reality. And there's some really great, trippy explanations about how this whole thing is an absolute illusion, and this whole world we're living in has been made on a 3D printer. So, you know, or in its prehistoric same outfitting. But we're talking about reality, the lack of it, the expansiveness of it, or, you know, your perception of it, I think, is really what it is.
Yeah, just remember that the world did not exist until you got here.
Now there's more to think about. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Loutopia podcast. We're going to take a little music break. Be enjoyed. Who we playing on the break tonight?
We'll do a little bit more Weak Sauce and Rise of Saturn.
Some Weak Sauce and the Rise of Saturn is going to serenade you. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back in just a very couple of minutes. And thank you for listening to the Loutopia podcast.
In a world where things almost make sense, and most everything is interesting and mildly unique, it's a place that feels somewhat familiar and has the suspicious comfort of a loving semi-omnipresence. You are on the outskirts of Loutopia. Sit back and relax, or tense up and march around. Please welcome your host of Loutopia, Lou Angel Wolf.
I love it when he says my name. Welcome back to the second half of Loutopia, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lou Angel Wolf, here with Michael Merberg, Chris Gorgeous, and today's topic is projected reality, personal reality, actual reality, reality of its all realities, because we certainly get confused these days as we ponder all of our places in the universe. And like I promised you in the first half of the show, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest for the second half. It's our lovely our personal hypnotherapist to the Loutopia kingdom. Welcome, Beth Snyder. Good evening, Beth.
Hey everybody, let's get reality going here.
We were taking a reality break, and so yeah, it's
How's your reality, Beth?
what's happening in your
reality? Well, that's just it, right? It's my reality. So my reality is good because it's filled with my biases and my paradigms.
It's the most likable one you have. So
that's right.
Yes.
And I'm comfortable in my reality.
and I've been extraordinarily blessed myself to be able to maintain a livable and lovable reality. And Beth, you're certainly part of that energy cycle that I live in. And always great to hear your voice. And I was thinking about you when we were when I was just loosely bolting together the theme for the show, and in your hypnotherapy practice, what I find, or you can just tell me if I'm feeling right about this. A lot of people really construct a very strange reality for themselves to exist in, and they because I've done it in my own past. I've actually socially sabotaged myself time and time again to continue the perplexities of my existence, and literally build in excuses for my failures. So yeah, and once I caught myself doing that, I went, boy, that was dumb. So I can't say
you had a reality shift.
Yeah.
It created a new reality. I think maybe I'd put it more like this, that our behaviors will gather evidence for our beliefs. And so our beliefs really create our reality. And whether that be whether that be a negative belief, I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good looking enough, that kind of got in there somewhere, right, in your programming. That's why I always like to say that I'm a de-hypnotist.
Yes, that's true.
Because it's really your personal hypnosis that's creating your reality. And when you change that, when you start to release the beliefs that don't truly serve you, even though, as you experienced in your life, right, there was a part of you that thought, continuing that pattern or that behavior was in some way protecting you or keeping you safe, or you were getting something out of creating that problem for yourself. Mm-hmm. But you had a shift, right? There's a part of you that said, oh, maybe I don't have to feel that way about myself, or maybe I can make a different choice. So yeah, it's interesting that, really all that's happening is a metaphor. So it's always, our behaviors are always a metaphor for the deeper belief pattern that's there about life and ourselves and the world, and it's just kind of playing out in that way in what we would call reality, or the conscious mind, which I don't know if it's reality, or I think subconscious mind is more is probably more reality when we go into trance states than this is. But.
Well, Yes, I I remember in my own personal reflection, I remember thinking about myself in certain ways that were they were negative projections about me from me, and what it was is I had some things that had happened in my life. Let's just say I had some bad dealings. Let's just call it that way. Nobody got killed, nothing major.
That's 2 weeks, and that's the second week in a row you did the same thing. That's really bothering you.
Bad dealings?
Just last week you did the same thing. Had
Well-
this bad dealing. Not that it was bad, not that it went bad,
Right. Well,
Nobody died.
Yeah, I think he said it.
died.
I think he said exactly that. There's no deaths involved.
right. But
But there's some stitches.
but I say that to say this. And it wasn't until I started owning my own shit that I overcame those feelings. When I stopped being my own victim and living my reality and looking at my reality and facing the man in the mirror every morning, it wasn't until then did I feel well enough to really move forward or in a better direction with my life.
I find it interesting that you're when you look at yourself and you discover this other reality about yourself, other people have already seen that reality. And sometimes you're like, well, they say something about you. They'll say, well, you're this way. And you're like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, that's my reality of you.
Yeah.
And then later on you discover, oh shit, that is real.
Well, it's that paradigm shift, right? It's the perceptual position. And, when your position changes and you go, oh,
Yeah.
maybe I am that, then you create a different. If we look at it energetically, now we create a different vibration, which creates a different reality. People then begin reacting to us differently. But ultimately, at all points in time, we're really the ones that are the true creators of what's happening around us.
Yeah, I think of it because I worked in a hospital. I used to hang out in the emergency room, and I worked in the lab, and I was going through a breakup, and I was just talking to people about it, which never is good. And a birthday came along, and they got me a gift, and I was like, "Oh, that's nice of you guys," And then I open up, it's a T-shirt, but it's a gag T-shirt, and on the T-shirt it says "Official member of the Piss and Moan About Everything Club." So sometimes
That
your
was a
reality,
loving way.
yeah, a little nudge there by the ER department, assholes.
Nudge.
But yeah, I know. Sometimes your reality comes smacking right into your face like a cold wave on a beach.
Yeah. Well, you know what though? But and consequently, because of it, you assumed the reality of that situation.
Well, I looked at within myself and I could see what they were talking about. And I thought, okay,
Yeah. It's
and I did assume it. I don't know if I assumed it. I recognized it. I think.
okay. Recognize it.
Yeah.
Same, using assumption in the same way.
Right.
That when you have, and I think what it is when you get honest with yourself and even with yourself, that can you project, you can start projecting the right energy about yourself. And I love, there's a couple of Bible passages that I, that I've found resounding truth in, and one of them is just I'm paraphrasing, but the gist of it is to stay in a constant state of prayer. And people go, oh, well, how do you do that? What are you're on your knees all day? Are you davening? Are you, in a lotus position? But, those are nice when you can take those breaks and be physically in prayer as well. But in your life, if you let your Holy Spirit or your spirit of separation or your spirit of creation or your white light or your energy of love, however you want to put it, if you let that be the guiding factor in all you do, you will find that you are in a constant state of prayer. When a situation comes up on you, you may already have gathered the wherewithal to handle that situation in a kind and equitable manner. And when you see these things happen, right in front of your eyes. And you notice, you go, well, I was prepared for that situation because of the serenity that I created in my own mind, because of the prayer that I had released earlier, or just, me loving myself a little bit this morning. Let me go into the afternoon as a kind and even person,
And I would say that prayer, when we say stay in a constant state of prayer, that prayer is the same as sort of a meditative state, right?
Yeah.
So it's a bit of an altered reality, what we would call reality, and it allows us to see things from a higher perspective,
Yes.
right? So much like the hawk, right? We can see things from a higher perspective and come from a place of love. Because in my opinion, that's the only reality that there is that we are love, and that's really it.
Yes.
And anytime we're not in that state, anytime we're not expressing that or receiving that in a way that produces a feeling of division, then that doesn't feel good.
Yeah. So love me, Mike.
And we're out of our natural state. Out of
be
our
loving
state of
with it.
prayer.
What the Tao
What's
teaches, what the Tao teaches, is that we should treat ourselves as if we're a bellows, and we breathe in and we breathe out. And as long as we're breathing that way in a modulated and calm state, then we create the sort of meditative vibrational reality around us that is, in a sense, a meditative state. And that's kind of what brings in the UFOs as well.
Yes, indeed. Well, I couldn't agree more, because I try to get that way during the day. A lot of times when I'm waiting on customers or just interacting, with people and restaurants and businesses and stuff like that, I try to be pleasant at all times, and I often find that it's a much easier, smoother way to glide through life.
Well, when others around you are losing their head and they're all excited, I mean, if you just take the time to breathe and create that meditative state, it'll spread. People catch on. It can't help but spread because it's a state of love and connection. So
and heart math too. I mean, really, your heartbeat will start to connect with others in that way. So
yes,
the Heart Math Institute has some really interesting exercises and studies on how we can synchronize our heartbeat with others as well, and it creates an incredible sense of calm.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's one of the core beliefs in the pacifist riot, is that if we can all tune our heart energies, our heart vibrations to our, each of us have a wonderful love setting. If you can set that, and we can harmoniously set that, and then we can collectively set that, we can send huge energies, huge waves of love out into the universe, and heaven knows where it lands. It will find the source that needs it. You don't even know. I mean, a prayer that just an anonymous prayer that you could have sent up could have landed on somebody in the very, very, the clutches of their life. I mean, it was one of those things, unless they felt something different, their life was going to take a completely different turn. But maybe it was that piece of energy that you sent out, that like Beth was talking about, the heart math. The heart math finally totaled up for that person that was so in need of that equation, that it reasoned them out of a bad situation, or preserved them, or taught them a lesson. And when we take the time to bring this into our reality, which is something you're existing every day, and some of it's perceived and some of it's real, but when part of your reality is the fact that you're a peaceful soul approaching the world in a peaceful way, and the motivation of your getting out of bed that day was to maybe touch somebody in a positive, loving way, then your next day and the day after that and the day after that, if you continue that theme and those levels of motion, you are going to wind up a very happy, well-adjusted person. And
or getting kicked off of Match.com.
I got 423 people in my inbox. I can't possibly keep up with these promises. But and also too, living that hippie guru seer kind of a thing is beautiful, and it is attractive. And every time I meet another one, I'm always in awe of their energy and oh, look at you, you're really being wonderful, you're really being distributive of your love and energies, and but you can only distribute once you've collected. So it's when you get that beautiful exchange, and I think that's the reason why we four get along so well, even though our opinions vary in all different ways. But we have the one collective thing is that the one thing we each can stand on and know as absolute truth. Now, truth is a completely different topic than reality, but part of the reality, part of the truth is that love is the ultimate emotion, and it is the reason for our existence. Everything else is gingerbread. The reason we were put here was to experience love, to exchange love, to make love, to perpetuate love, because it's the only element that will preserve this planet. And we've been put here with this special mission to boost it up, make it go a little further in a conscious way. I mean, if you have that beautiful balanced life and you can perpetuate love without spoken word, oh my God, bless you. I mean, to be able to project your love simply through deeds, I give you all the respect in the world. But what we have to do is find ourselves recentered and rebalanced, and perpetuating and living that message of love every day, knowing that everything's actually going to be all right. No matter what happens, everything is going to be all right. And I can't go any further than that.
And the journey of shedding the ego and the journey of moving above our instincts, right? That kind of animalistic part of us, and moving into a higher vibration. I mean, that's life, right?
It's what you like to think anyway, And
for some people, it would be nice. It'd be nice if they learned it. It's like, let's bomb another country. That'll make me feel better.
I mean, if they were born into a more loving, a loving world, if love was valued, as much as other things, as much as money, if safety was valued, if the respect for others was valued, but we are unfortunately a species that the optics from far away would be they worship money overall.
Sure.
And it's it's a false idol.
Absolutely.
Right.
And the other thing about it is all you have to do is review a couple centuries of history, and you'll see the same thing happening every time to every society. I mean, it's like we can't even find an original way to exist. We have to run this old, wore out, summer rerun bullshit special.
Yeah, that's why the Karate Kid came back.
That's right.
That's why they're remaking.
Wax on, wax off.
Yeah, they're remaking Overboard. That's why.
Let me ask
yeah,
the
no, it's fine.
let me ask the mic. Let me ask the Wikipedia. Michael, do you, off the top of your head, do you know the longest? I don't know, and I'm asking. Do you know the longest enduring peaceful civilization that's ever been?
Off the top of my head, no. Probably Rome, the Pax Romana. lasted about 200 years. But then again, it was a time of control. And when essentially the empire was so great, nobody would take it on, and then eventually the empire started to crumble, and it started to lose its edge, and it started to lose its edges, and then eventually it got invaded.
But they had peace for 200 years.
Yeah, I believe it's 200 years.
Yeah, God.
And that's just
Well, I
Western
would say
Western
too, I'm
civilization.
sure there's still indigenous tribes and First Nations that are still practicing, from the beginnings of time. I mean, the Maya are still practicing, the American Indians, the Hopi. I mean,
Sure.
so
Beautiful.
Even though they're small,
Yeah.
in comparison, they've lived peacefully for a long time.
Well, seeing as I'm playing Mr. Bible verse today, it also says,
Reverend Lou.
Reverend Lou, now sit down here. The scriptures also say,
It reminds me of the royal wedding, which I did not watch. But did you see the black minister giving the sermon? It was the best thing I've ever seen, because he was all like, he was like a black minister would be. Let me tell you about love. And he'd lean down. He's in England, okay?
Nice.
The royals are there. And they're looking at him like, oh, my dear. The looks on their face were priceless, dude.
that's
Well,
beautiful.
the bride's mother was black, right?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the British
Yeah.
side of the family now. Yeah,
It's
the
like-
royals were like, well, yeah, I understand that. But they were just not used to that. So usually it's a somber, very, you know how it is. It's very Catholic, But no, he was leaning on the podium and telling them how it was going to be. And yeah, it was great. Well, sorry, I should throw that in there.
Too many wasn't a comedian. It was like, hey, any pedophiles in the house?
Oh, my God.
You from Belgium, what are you doing here?
Y'all come up here.
What was your Bible verse after that?
Well, like Beth said, the Hopi or the Mayans and the Toltecs, although they make up a small amount of people, the scriptures say, broad is the path to destruction, and narrow is the gate, and few shall find it. So what I was taught in Christian teachings was that was your challenge, to live your life as scripturally as possible. And of course, as the longer I study the word and things related to it, I find there's a whole other side of something that you didn't even think about. And the thing that I'm noticing with that is some of the scripture verses can easily be paralleled into our world society if you release them from the bonds of some sort of hypothetical Christian world and put them into the real world, and you will find that it obviously can't be that the path of love and forgiveness and understanding and kindness and charity and empathy, that's not the broad path. It exists in each one of us, but the metered amounts to me seem low, and it's still dampened by huge wet blankets of fear. So,
Well, sure.
but what I'm saying is, narrow is the gate, less than small, tight group of people may be the ones seeing through this. Maybe we are they. Maybe we're the ones that say, hey, you don't have to hate. You don't have to hate another faith. You don't have to hate other people at all. That it's not even part of your thing. It's counterproductive to your life. Have no hate. Get that. Get the first thing. If that's not a truth in your life, start in the morning of eliminating all hate in your life. There's nothing to hate. Nothing. This whole thing is divine. This whole space is divine. This whole planet is divine. Each of us are beautiful and wonderful. There's nothing to hate. Now, I'm not saying don't be cautious with your life. Your life is precious. So don't do stupid things with your life just because you're not hating anything. Love with some wisdom. Love with some, concept of what you're doing.
Well, that's exactly it. Is Jesus Christ was the epitome of love, but he also lacked wisdom. If he was that wise, he wouldn't have ended up on the cross.
Well, well, right.
Well, perhaps.
Yeah.
It's an arguable point.
Well,
If he even did. I mean, there's no pictures. It's all eyewitness.
right.
No, but they got
And really, I mean, that book has been rewritten, so many times, and for the benefit of the organizations that needed to use it. So, I have always seen it more and taken it more as a metaphorical, and I think much of it is borrowed. I don't know that it is exact.
Right.
So we talk about that, and it's always interesting to me how people will, they'll be so forthright with Bible verses as if it's as if it's real and this absolutely happened, but they'll deny something, like a woman's right to whatever,
right.
As if she has no right to her feelings or whatever it may be. So
I get, yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but
no, I understand what you're saying. But what I'm saying is, obviously, we're all in agreement that we live in a artist's world. Our creator was an absolute artist. I mean, the technological the technology of everything before technology, just the complexity of a tree, the complexity of your eyeball, the blend of oxygen for us to breathe, the amount of water, all of this incredible artistry throughout our life, not to mention the beautiful animals and things in the sea and just, mountains and valleys and just all this eye, ear, nose candy for us all. Okay. So I think we're all in agreement that this place was created by an artist. And if you're fortunate enough to have that mindset that you can appreciate it that way, you're going to go further down the road. But here's my take on Jesus, Yeshua, Yahushua, however you want to say his name. He was an artist, man. And he was so convinced of the story of love. He was so convinced that this was the absolute truth, that love is the answer to everything. And the one who sent me, who's the same one who sent Chris, Mike, Beth, me, the one who sent me wants me to convey this to you in a huge way. In fact, I have so little fear of this life, I'm going to let you take my life, even though I'm an innocent man, just to describe to you what the true feeling of love should reflect. You should have absolutely no fear in your life, knowing that I'm going to pass from this physical slogging bag of mud back into my my spirit life, my glowing white robe, whatever it is. That was an artist displaying his best show ever.
And so how do we get so far removed from a message of unconditional love thy neighbor as thyself? How are we so far removed from that the zealous, the Christian zealous, the fundamental Christians, firmly believe and are pursuing it, politically and in every other way, the move to Jerusalem, that they are celebrating at the fact and hoping that so many people will die so that these few chosen people can go and be part of this, pretend castle in the sky. They are so far removed from the message that they are now preaching hate in the name of love.
I know what the answer is.
What is it, Chris?
Fear.
Oh,
Fear.
Yes.
That 4-letter word.
It's the redistribution of fear.
Well, look at the Spanish Inquisition, though. I mean, those people that actually tortured, non-Catholics, believed they were doing it for the person being tortured's own good. They were getting that person on the road to heaven by way of spikes and Iron Maidens and fire and all kinds of stuff.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
But yeah, that's why I said it. I mean, you got to bring it in some point in time.
Well,
bring out your dad.
Well. And what I was saying, and Beth, you're exactly right. What happens is we take that beautiful, beautiful message that if you want an understanding of this life, I think that that's a very strong one. That you should have no fear in this life whatsoever, that you are going to be completely absorbed by love when you're done with this slogging bag of mud that you're living in right now. So, but what happens is people start, there's humanly things to be regarded. You start getting into money. You start getting into ownership and rights.
Collectibles.
Collectible. yes.
And machismo. Yeah, machismo.
Yeah. Oh, and ego, of course,
Huge.
spurring the whole thing along because, it's always, Greg Ray told me a really funny line one time. He goes, yeah, man. He goes, there's those religious people. He goes, they just, they don't make a lot of sense sometimes. I remember I used to sit next to this girl in fourth grade, and she would shoot her hand up after we had our prayer, and she'd say, "Teacher, Greg Ray had his eyes open during the prayer." So, how would you know? How would she know? But anyway, so there's a lot of that in the world. There's a lot of people with their eyes open during the prayer, ratting other people out there doing the same thing. So what? And judgment is not.
Judge not, lest ye be judged. But yet the judgment is deep.
The judgment to me
coming from that Christianity.
Yeah, and usually it's based on little or no information. It's really sad.
And that's why the Tao teaches not to judge.
Exactly. You don't judge. Now, you do have to use discretion for your own safety, but you do. But
yeah, you need to size up that mountain lion, dude.
Yeah.
You need to size it up.
Yeah, right.
I need to be clear in my head of your intention, mountain lion.
Now, mountain lion, dude, I know you're all right.
It seems soft.
You seem
Looks
okay.
very
Well,
cuddly.
see, that's the thing. A mountain lion is neither good nor bad, but it can eat you.
Yes.
So you don't have to judge it as good or bad. You just have to know to stay away because it can eat me. Mm-hmm. So stay away from the judgment. Lions are lions.
Yeah, know that they are.
Yeah, they're not evil lions.
Right.
They're not wonderful lions. They're just freaking lions.
Yeah,
It's
tell
like
my wife that.
zebras being zebras, lions being lions.
My wife insists that snakes are evil. I'm like, I don't think so.
Well, they got a bad rap.
They're just doing what they do.
Right.
They do what they do. They don't carry that ego with them. They
They're-
just do what's instinctual to them, and they're guilt free about it. And they don't have malice or hatred in their heart. So they may kill something to eat it, but they don't do it out of malice. They don't do it out of hatred. They don't do it out of revenge.
Yeah, you never saw a rattlesnake bullying another snake. Just shoving them around.
Or you never saw them kill anything and just walk away from it, with some candor.
Right.
Right.
Although
Or
on the
try
other
to cover
hand-
up their crime.
On the other hand, mountain lions they do play with the stuff, right? They play with their food. That can be considered not really. Okay, maybe not. All right.
I think they call it tenderizing, Adolf.
But I would say too, judge not lest he be judged. I think more importantly, and probably foremost, is to let go of judging yourself, right? Because
Yes.
that is the foundation of anxiety and depression. And those that are judging themselves and the hardest on themselves are the ones that are the most judgmental of others.
Yes, sometimes, but there is nobody tougher on me than me.
Stop it. Stop doing it. Love on you. Love yourself unconditionally. Love you like Stevie loves you.
Oh my God!
Yeah, what's up with the four agreements, dude?
Such a level of love.
Yeah, what's going on?
4
Love on
agreements.
you.
One of them is, be impeccable with your words. That means against yourself as well.
Love you like I love you.
Oh,
What is happening right now?
You're so lovable.
I'm just melting. No, but what I'm saying is and we're all that way. But I snap out of it quickly, and what snacks me out of it quickly is as I look around and I see the love I have in my life, the people that are around me, my family, my friends. Oh, and by the way, I do have to say, catch you later, big man, to my buddy Roddy Moon. He crossed over last week after his second big bout with brain cancer. 57 years old, just an absolute, just a bulwark of a man. Just 6'7", 325 pounds, missing a leg. I mean, he was just brilliant, strong, smart, could build anything out of anything.
So to be a man, I got to lose a leg?
Well,
I don't want to do that.
it'll put you in a different
Get
category.
on it, Chris.
Yeah, I'll
Maybe
stay.
that guy from Walmart. Maybe that guy from Walmart will kick you harder.
But he was a big, funny, wonderful human being, and I'm happy he's not suffering anymore. The last few months with the brain cancer was pretty brutal.
Terrible.
Yeah, so I'll see you on the other side, brother. Or if you want to come see me down here, whatever, man, I'm open.
Or you can listen to the podcast, because you just never know where you go after you die. I think they do have access. I really do.
It'd be funny if you were stuck in a YouTube zone.
It's like you die, and YouTube is like cable for the dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Oh
you
my gosh.
but after you die, you get the best Wi-Fi reception ever.
You get 10G.
It's a trade-off.
Dream
Yeah.
anything.
All right, yeah, HD up the wazoo.
I got to study a little more, but I want to do a show on 5G. It's really starting to creep me out a little bit. But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Well, Beth, baby, I love you so much, and thank you. And you are just, you're one of the beams of light that hold me up, and I couldn't be more grateful for you. And you and Nancy and Stevie Nicks. Oh my God, Stevie! If you could just love me,
No.
Stevie Nicks.
well, we love you too, and we'll be gone now. We're going to Guatemala, so we'll be gone for the next 2 shows.
Okay.
What do you do?
I'll be back with stories of toucans and who knows what else.
What are you doing there? Why we were not talking about that?
I know we're going with my friend. She's a shaman.
Sweet.
Orive. Yeah, it should be really exciting, and so it's lovely to invite us down there. And so we're going to go explore and enjoy Guatemala and all it has to offer. So it should be really an exciting trip. It wasn't on my bucket list, but just say yes.
Amen.
So yes, I'll go.
Well,
Sweet.
Yeah.
Have a good, safe trip.
yeah, absolutely.
I
Beth,
will.
We'll be praying for you, and whatever kind of communications you have, text us and let us
Yeah.
know you're all right. So we'll be thinking about
I'll go
you.
mingle. I'm going to go mingle with the Mayans, which will be really exciting. So we're going to go right into
you're
the
the-
Mayan villages. So we'll pick up some goodies for you guys.
You're the coolest.
That
chick.
sounds like an event at a retirement home. Mingle with the Mayans on Wednesday.
No, we actually have original Mayans.
Okay, now we're all going to become our spirit animals. Ethel. You can't be the stork too.
What do you think your spirit animal is, Michael?
Tiger.
Tiger?
Yeah.
How about you, Chris? What's your spirit animal?
I don't know, dude. Slug. I know.
Look.
Very deliberate movement.
Beth, what do you? What's yours? What do you fancy yourself as?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe a woodpecker. Keep trying. Even if I give myself a headache.
Yours is a wolf, right, Lou?
Yeah, the whole angel wolf thing. I guess I got to stick with that.
Yeah, you don't have a choice. You're branded.
Sounds better than angel coyote.
That was the Hebrew side of the family. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have spent another hour in Loutopia, and we are so happy that you did. Hey, please like the page. Please subscribe to the page. Please tell your friends. Feel free to repost it. Put it on Facebook. Put it on your own page. Put it on Goldman Sachs's page. Whatever you want to do, ladies and gentlemen, with the Loutopia podcast. It's all free, and it's just free speech, and we are celebrating that while we have it. Thank you, Michael. And
Thanks for having me.
Michael, one of the most compassionate attorneys I've ever met. You can find him at disabilityattorney.net. Chris Gorgeous, very, very funny stand-up comedian.
Yep. Thanks
And
for having me.
lovely caretaker. And Beth over at it's the Om Shop, TheOmShoppe, theomshoppe.com. Beautiful metaphysical shop down there in Sarasota with a wonderful catalog that you can shop out of just as well. Beth, we love you, honey. Thank you so much. And Those of you who listen every week, man, I just my heart. You warm my heart. You make like the chief said in Little Big Man. You make my heart soar like a hawk. So be wonderful. Be nice to each other. We'll be back next Tuesday, 6:30, and I think we're gonna have a special guest next week.
Cool.
I think Bobby Taylor Carpenter's coming in.
Cool.
Who's
should I bring my?
he's got a lot of action.
Bobby Taylor is my spirit animal. I take it back.
Bring my hammer.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to Loutopia. We love you a lot, and I mean it.